Okay, right.
Yes, sir. Welcome to BDPA's Level Up 2021. Our feature today is the ways of successful and effective leaders. I'm Raven Dickerson. Just going to introduce our wonderful panel of speakers this evening. Would you like me to start our agenda?
That's all right. I'll go with the agenda right quick.
Okay, cool.
All right. All right, thank you, Raven. So we're going to do welcoming announcements. We're going to introduce the panelists. Then we'll get into the panel discussion. And depending on the time allowed, we may do some final questions and reflections. All right, so first off, thank you everybody for joining us today. My name is Jason Bradshaw. I am the chapter president of the Huntsville chapter of BDPA. I want to thank you again for being here. It's 5 o'clock, 5:30 on a weekday. You could be anywhere else, so I really appreciate everybody being here today. The reason that we brought Level Up together was to give college students, entry-level professionals, people looking to change careers, the opportunity to have mentors or executive or higher level personnel, provide them with real life leadership tips and techniques. Okay, so I appreciate you all being here. I appreciate our panelists who are going to give you an awesome amount of information, and just based off the energy from the pre-session, I think we're going to have a great session today. So I'm going to turn it over to Raven to introduce our speakers for the night.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. Starting off, we have Mr. Lucius Hires III. Lucius Hires is the director of the Office of Diversity and Equal Opportunity for NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center. Named to the position in May 2014, he is responsible for managing, planning, directing, and implementing a comprehensive equal opportunity program for the center. Hires has more than 20 years of experience in equal employment opportunity, or EEO, in the federal government, military, private sector, and academia. Most recently, he served as Director of Outreach and Retention at the Department of Veteran Affairs in Washington, where he was responsible for providing affirmative employment policy, managing special emphasis programs, advocating use of diverse student internships, conducting technical assistance reviews, and preparing strategic analysis to address identified barriers in employment. From 2011 to 2013, Hires was the Affirmative Employment and Special Emphasis Programs Manager for the Secret Service in Washington, providing expert guidance and training on EEO issues, anti-harassment, and reasonable accommodations to the EEO Director and senior management. He worked for the Department of Homeland Security Customs and Border Protection Service in Washington from 2010 to 2011 as Assistant Director for the Southeast Region for the Diversity and Civil Rights Office. From 2006 to 2010, he served as an Equal Employment Specialist for the Secret Service. At Walter Reed Medical Center in Bethesda, Maryland, from 2004 to 2006, Hires managed and directed the Alternate Dispute Resolution Program and served as manager for the EEO and Diversity Training Program. At Columbus Technical College in Columbus, Georgia, from 2003 to 2004, he was manager of the Innovative to Work program and served as a consultant on workplace diversity and dispute resolution. From 2002 to 2003, he worked at Pratt & Whitney's Columbus Engine Center in Columbus, Georgia, advising the director and senior management on employee relations and unfair labor practices. Hires began his EEO career in 1996 as a senior equal opportunity advisor for the 7th Army Training Command in Grafenwohl, Germany, advising the chief executive officer on all matters pertaining to human relations, training, investigating, and adjudicating discrimination complaints. During his career with the Army, Hires held a variety of leadership positions and supported Operation Desert Shield / Desert Storm and Operation Joint Endeavor. Hires received a bachelor's degree in resource management and an associate's degree in business administration from Troy University in Troy, Alabama. He is also a graduate of the prestigious Georgetown University School of Continuing Studies in Strategic Diversity and Inclusion Management. Hires is a member of the Society of Human Rights Management, as well as the African American Federal Executive Association. He has received numerous military and federal awards throughout his distinguished career, including the meritorious Service Medal with Oak Leaf Cluster and various performance awards. Hires and his wife, Kim, have 2 sons, Keenan and Kevin, and a daughter, Ari. Next up, we have Dr. Rosemary Hodges. Dr. Rosemary M. Hodges is the Dean of Teacher and Student Learning at the Alabama School of Cyber Technology and Engineering in Huntsville, Alabama. She has more than 10 years of pre-kindergarten through grade 12 experience as a classroom teacher in the local school systems as an experienced high school math and science summer enrichment instructor with surrounding universities. Before returning to P12 in the spring of 2020, Dr. Hodges completed 20 years of service at the higher education level, during which she developed unique academic partnerships with P12 school systems and higher education institutions. Dr. Hodges also served as the interim dean of the College of Education, coordinator of assessment and accreditation, and as a teaching professor at its highest rank. Dr. Hodges graduated from St. Ambrose University of Davenport, Iowa, with a bachelor's degree in elementary education and minor in mathematics, and doctorate from Tennessee State University of Nashville, Tennessee, in curriculum and instruction. Now we have Ms. Erica Ignont. Ms. Erica Ignont currently serves as the Assistant Deputy Chief of Staff, G8, Resource Management for the United States Army Space and Missile Defense Command at Redstone Arsenal, Alabama. USASMDC is the Army's leading command for air missile defense and space operations, supporting both STRATCOM and SpaceCom. In addition, USASMDC is in charge of the Army's space modernization strategy, working with Army Futures Command and warfighters on the latest cutting-edge technology. Ms. Ignont manages and provides oversight of approximately $1 billion budget, supporting both operations, maintenance, Army, OMA, research, development, test, and evaluation, RDT&E, other procurement, Army, and overseas contingency operations, OCO, requirements. Through 20 years of contract and government service, Ms. Ignont has served a variety of technical resource management and leadership positions. Ms. Ignont previously served as the Executive Division Chief, USASMDC. She was responsible for 100% of all command execution, oversight of OMA, RDT&E, and OCO funding. She has initiated and implemented timely and flexible solutions to meet the needs and requirements of the USASMDC and the Army. Ms. Ignont received her Bachelor's of Science degree from the University of Alabama in Huntsville in biochemistry and Master of Science degree from Faulkner University in management. She has also completed a round of accounting classes from the University of Phoenix. She is credited with numerous scientific publications and a publication in the Resource Management magazine. Ms. Ignont is formerly from Monroe, Louisiana, and has 1 daughter and a grandson. Mr. Terry Morris serves as Eli Lilly and Company's advisor for racial justice and as national president of National Black Data Processing Associates Organization, aka BDPA. After 20 years in IT roles, he recently took a development and implementation job on improving job opportunities and experience for Black people. Terry not only embodied what hard work and values ingrained in faith and family can do professionally, he has reinvested his strengths back into the community through volunteerism and intentional impact, something he considers his life motto. Morris graduated from Florida A&M University in 2000 with a degree in computer and information systems and obtained a master's degree in policy analysis from Indiana University, Purdue University, Indianapolis in 2010. Terry has always had a passion for serving the community and teaching. Still, when an opportunity presented itself for him to visit Indianapolis to participate in a career planning conference for college students at Lilly, he followed the chance, which quickly ignited on an ongoing journey in the sciences. That journey included many professional achievements and 7 other positions before his current role at Eli Lilly. He wasted no time integrating his passion for service and education with his IT background and skills, a fusion that would also open doors to his involvement in volunteerism with BDPA, now as national president. Under his leadership, the organization continues to stick to the mission, advancing careers from the classroom to the boardroom by equipping young African-American students and professionals with the tools, resources, and networks to be successful contributors in STEM. Mr. Greg Flowers, a native of Florida, Gregory Flowers Jr. graduated from the illustrious Florida A&M University on the highest of 7 hills in Tallahassee, Florida, with a bachelor's in computer and electrical engineering and a master's in computer science. He has worked with IBM in technical sales, the National Magnet Lab as a web developer, FAMU as an IT specialist, and is currently employed with Microsoft as a software engineer. In addition to BDPA, he is a member of the Devs of Color organization and volunteers as a tutor with the inner city youth in Seattle, Washington. And those are our speakers and our panelists for today.
Awesome. Thank you, Raven. This is Greg Flowers. Welcome everybody to our panel today, where we will be talking about effective and successful leadership. Today we have 4 well-accomplished leaders on our panel today. We have Ms. Rosemary Hodges, Mr. Lucius Hires, Mr. Terry Morris, and Ms. Erica Ignont. Hopefully I pronounced that right. I apologize if I didn't. Today this event is sponsored by BDPA Huntsville. I just want to say thank you to Jason and Raven for having us today. We hope that this will be fulfilling to you and that we can give you some quote unquote soul food that you can take home and spread around your family, your company, as well as to your children. I just want to open up here and say thank you to everybody that's involved. But I have a question. I would like each one of our panelists to name a leadership quality and then tell us what you do to cultivate that leadership quality within yourself. We'll start with you, Ms. Rosemary.
So leadership quality, I think the one that is very important to me is integrity and being able to know that people can count on me. And so just because you can do something doesn't mean you should always do that something. And so being, having integrity in what you do and how you present yourself, that's the #1 leadership quality for me.
Okay, I'm going just left to right on my screen. Mr. Morris, you're next.
Well, I wish you had called my name first because
okay.
She stole it. So I have
I'm sorry.
So I guess integrity is a great leadership quality. But the other I mentioned is really learning agility. We, particularly in technology, it's a fast evolving landscape, and the ability to constantly evolve with technology. You know, for example, BDPA, the name is suggestive of the time of when the organization was founded back in 1975, and the discipline was considered data processing. Well, we're a far cry from data processing as a discipline, but digital is the marker to talk about this this landscape. But having the ability to constantly evolve with tech, with the business, is table stakes for successful leaders in this day.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Ms. Ignont.
So for me, I would definitely say courage. A part of my experience in working for the Army, there's the Army values. And one of the things that's key to that is courage. And that's the courage, to always do the right thing. And I think integrity plays a part of that. And just knowing when to say no, knowing when to say, I don't know, it's okay. As leaders, you're not going to always know everything. So I think personal courage is really important when you consider what a good leader is.
Awesome, and thank you for sharing that. Mr. Loucious, we're going to get right to you. I want to make a quick comment. We have integrity, we have learning agility, and courage. Maya Angelou, the famous poet, she said courage is the best virtue because it takes courage to have any of the other virtues. On that note, we'll go to you, Mr. Hires.
Mr. Greg, I'm old. Made me forget what I was going to say.
No. I'm sorry about that.
No. Mr. Bradshaw said we was informal. So, hey, you can learn and have fun, right?
I understand.
So we're going to have some fun here and learn. I agree with everything my colleagues said. I actually was going to say integrity. I would say
Awesome.
to add to that, all those things tie into self-awareness, being self-aware. However, I'm not going to highlight that one because I believe we're going to come back to self-awareness. What I'm going to pull on is also one of the critical factors that I've found out for all of us is communication. Now, but I want to be a little bit more specific because people always say, oh, communication. I'm like, well, tell me a little bit more. What do you mean by communicating? I would say a quality that you want to learn how to do is to communicate, learn how to communicate up, learn how to communicate, down. But more in particular, I think sometimes we forget is learning how to communicate cross, right?
Awesome.
Working with and communicating with your peers is extremely important, right? And so I would say then you're going to drill down a little bit further. I'm looking at all these photos. I see a lot of people of color, but we was playing around with Miss Raven earlier, and obviously she's a lot younger than I am. She's young enough to be my daughter. So we got cross-cultural communication, we got generational communication, right, and intercultural communication. I see a lot of people of color, but we're not all the same. So don't automatically assume that because we all look, have the same skin color, or maybe a little bit darker, a little bit darker than each other, that we all communicate the same. So I would say take communication and build on it. Don't just say I need to know how to be more effective communicator, but put some subcomponents to that communication. Wow.
What a way to open this panel. I would like to say thank you all for that feedback. So we're getting the food early today, you all. This is lovely. I have another question, and that question is leadership something that can be taught, or is it something that you're born with? I'm going to switch it up a little bit. Ms. Erica Ignont, we're going to start with you.
Okay, so I think we're all born with a little bit of it, but of course, through experience, we become better leaders. So I think you do have it. We have those qualities that are in us, whether it's on the playground or bossing your sister around or your siblings. So it's there. It's just how we build on the foundation as time goes on, I believe.
Okay, reverse order a bit. Mr. Hires.
See, what our people don't know is that, we all as a panel, we've been together for years and years and years. So we feed off each other, right?
Awesome.
No, actually, I just met some of my team members today, but it's like I've known them all my life. I totally agree with Miss Erica, right? Greg, I shared with you earlier. I hope you don't mind me calling you Greg instead of Mr. Flowers, so you can call me Lucius.
All right,
you had me research, and I had to go back and think about that one because that's a personal one with me. You hear so much about is leadership taught, is it learned? I agree with Erica. I think it's both. Right. There's some attributes and traits that you just naturally have, the gift, Now, if I was with a bunch of Christians, I'd say, the Bible said everybody has a gift. So one of your gifts may be that gift of you got certain leadership abilities that you just inherit. I would say David in the Bible, he had certain leadership attributes, but hey, it was a lot of years in training he had to go through before he actually sat in his leadership role. So there's a
That's
training phase. So I would say as leaders, there's certain skills and attributes that we have, and then there's some that we can develop. Some of the skills that we normally have is, our qualities and our temperament, our personalities. However, there's things that we can build upon and develop, like, and things we learn from parenting and skills and from schooling and from experience. So we pick up on some of those attributes and those particular skills. So I would say, Greg, that is a combination of both of those things. And then finally to that also, when people say is leadership skills, is it something that that we can learn and we're taught? I say also make sure you can define the difference between leadership, supervising, and management, right? Because supervising, leading, and management is not all the same, but all supervising managers should have some level of leadership skills.
Awesome. That's an excellent response, and thank you for that. Ms. Hodges, Dr. Hodges.
Lucius just wrapped it all up. I don't know why we still talking about this. So I thought you did an excellent answer, because for me, coming from education, I have been trained to know that everybody has leadership skills, and it's leadership in your field of expertise. So even with little kids, if they're talkers, they're leaders in that talking. If they want to be in control of something. And so I think that everybody has leadership skills, but it's through experience that you develop the direction of your leadership. And so it's like using your superpowers for good or using your superpowers for evil. So, but leadership skills, absolutely, everybody has them embedded. And through the experience, they get a chance to either let them blossom, or depending on their situation, it can be tapped down. And so that they won't get a chance to really hone their leadership skills. So
Thank you for sharing that. I'm going to double back on that question, because that was a very interesting perspective relating to children and a teacher. Mr. Morris.
Yes, sir. I've known Greg for a long time, and so I don't know why he decided to treat me this way by having me come at the end of this question after it has been well vetted by these experts. All I would add is my parallel to leadership is muscle development. Now, you can see that I don't have any, but what I've heard is that you have to work that muscle to actually grow it and actually gain more strength through that activity. And I agree with everything that's been said. There's a base platform of leadership that I do believe is available for all who desire to operate in that gift, as was expressed earlier. But to be able to handle the larger and more complex and impactful opportunities, the more experiences you've had previously set you up for that. I don't want to have the president's issues at my desk at 8 o'clock in the morning, because I haven't been tuned for those. I will make a decision if a decision is requested of me. However, I may not be prepared and have all the information and the muscle developed to be able to handle that. But there is a process, and sometimes it's time, sometimes there's a bit of intuition, but there's some development that would increase your probability of success. So what I will add there is that we need not be afraid to go through the process to be developed to the next level of leader. I've seen more often than not, systems and processes, and quite frankly, just racism in and of itself, that have suppressed our aspiration to lead and drive the most optimal dimensions of impact in a corporation. And so don't let all that hold you back, because some development can actually lead to you actually proving to even to yourself and that you can help have more impact for an organization.
Awesome responses. Thank you there, Mr. Morris. I want to go back to Ms. Hodges on the question of how can you teach a child leadership skills with your background in student learning and education?
It is. So again, it's experience. So oftentimes when you find children on the playground or if they're in school, people will ask. They usually pick the child that appears to be most responsive. So can you get to the office without, ducking down the halls and take this to the principal and come back without any incidents? And so people have a tendency to pick the one that is going to follow directions from A to B. However, we know that leaders develop. And so that kid that's exploring the halls while getting to the principal's office to come back to you has actually gained more experience than the kid that went from point A to point B. So it is a matter of giving them opportunities. And opportunities would be, can you go down and get the mail, or can you clean up your room, or can you help your sibling clean up a room? And if you're talking about older kids, you have to give them the wherewithal to accomplish a task without you interceding and letting them guide others. And so the unfortunate part, and I'll talk about what Terry was talking about when you're talking about Black folks, or do they get a chance to be leaders and that kind of thing. Oftentimes it starts in the classroom. Does that teacher trust this child to go from point A to point B? But you'll see some children that go from point A to B to C, back to B, back to A. Those are usually your ones that are going to be the leader. And Greg, you probably was that child who was going down that hall instead of going straight to the office.
I hear you.
Bringing it back. I can see it all over you. I see it all over you.
I value education. I'll say that much. That's interesting because we talk about 2021 and we talk about educational standards and policies and different things like that. And, we have students who are shying away from higher education. We have students who are maybe wanting to take on more skill-based learning where they want to go be mechanics or they want to go weld and things like that. And we also have students now who are pursuing entertainment and entrepreneurship at rapid rates, right? So in the home, I think, is where we want to focus our education in the future, but that's a whole nother story.
I got you. I'm right there with you when you get ready to talk about it.
Okay, awesome. So I'm going to bring up another question here, and this is a question from our attendee.
Before you move on, though.
Please.
Was that question though? How can you teach how can parents teach leadership traits to their
children? Yes, and please engage.
It's
please.
Through experience. Yeah, that was my bottom line answer. Is giving them the opportunity to lead.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And experiences by just the things that you do around the house. So what you got?
Can I just put a little bit with that?
Please,
put myself on a little timer, right? 2-minute timer here. So
take your time.
So my youngest is 25, right? So I got three kids: a 30-year-old, a 29-year-old, and a soon to be 31-year-old, and a 25-year-old.
Okay.
I'm pretty proud of them. I think they've been pretty successful. Their mom and I, we talk leadership in our house every day from the time they was 2 years. And Dr. Hodges helped me out on this one. I think they said that most sociologists say that most children are starting to form who they are between the ages of 2 and 8, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So if that's true, why are we waiting until our kids are 28 before we start trying to teach them leadership? So we took that in, and we proud of them. One of them is an educator with a master's from 2 prestigious schools. So she like you, Dr. Hodge, she like education. All of them doing the finance for a major company down in Alabama. And the other one, he works for JP Morgan. He already told me, Dad, I'm making twice as what you was making when I was half your age, right? But it's not all about money. There's 2 things we told them. It's number 1, chase your passion. And number 2, we gave them the opportunity to be in leadership roles when they was very, very young. Right. And so some of these things that you can do is simple little things that you have fun with.
Awesome.
For instance, we all was in Toastmasters. And so we didn't just have them doing the speeches. Kids love to boss mom and dad around. And so we said, hey, we want you to assume leadership roles in Toastmasters. Like, you're going to be the Toastmaster of the day. And they said, what that mean, Mom? What that mean? That means you get to pick the speech that you want mom and dad to work on.
Yep.
Right. So give our young people opportunities to lead, help them to develop those leadership skills and attributes, and don't make them think that they're second tier to someone else, that they can't do this stuff. And so set them up for success versus setting them up for failure. If I can give you a video game and you can figure that sucker out, and you got to teach me when you're 5, surely I can teach you how to lead and guide and instruct and provide managerial and leadership skills to someone else when you're 3. So just give them those opportunities to do what Dr. Hodges said. Allow them to practice leadership. And sometimes half the people go to church. Well, give them opportunity to be up front. Give them opportunity to lead and do programs. Don't sit and then hold them to a high standard. I don't want to piss anybody off, but I hate seeing people go to the church and say, that's all right, baby. And it's not all right when you're making a whole bunch of mistakes and it's not good, because Erica can tell you, you're not going to be in her job if you are coming to that bringing C-level work. You're not going to be up there working as an executive. So set them up for success and not failure. I think that's 2 minutes. Thank you.
Awesome. Start early and give opportunity to the students or to the children, and allow them to grow. I like that.
Opportunities in leadership roles, right? Not just opportunities, but let them lead.
That's a very interesting conversation. So I'm going to go to Mr. Morris and Ms. Ignont on this question. And the question is, what do you look for people who you hire onto your team in terms of skills and qualities?
You know, I'll start first and just get out the way here, because there's a lot of cleanup being done. You know, I go back to the first question. You know, I'm a very value-centered person, and it does connect a lot to leadership. And this whole integrity, the learning agility, and there's a work ethic dimension that I'm seeking in all of the talent that I've had. I'm actually in the process of hiring a person currently. I'll be doing interviews in the next week or so to assist me in the racial justice work that I have to do at Lilly. And this work, not a lot of companies have hired, you know, people like me and others to focus on equity within their companies. And so I take that serious, and I'm going to be looking for folks who are deeply passionate about the work. And I can see it in their previous examples, and I can cut through the integrity. Is it genuine? And if when I see it, I'll know it, and that's the person that'll be hired to do this job.
Awesome. Miss Erica?
Okay, so I think there's a couple things. When selecting the right person for the job, I definitely always want to look at, do they have the skill set? Do they have the basic knowledge in order to perform the duties of the position? But also with that, it's important that they have the skill, but also have like the tenacity. Are they going to be willing to do the above and beyond, or are they just going to be one of those people to say, I'm only supposed to do this? And then also, I would say fit. Are they the right fit to go with the rest of the people that we currently already have on the team? Because I think in order to have a well-defined team that's working for a common mission, do the personalities go well with the personalities that we already have, or is it going to be conflict? So I think just a balance of the skill set, the tenacity, and then the fit with how they mesh with the rest of the team. It's important to me when selecting a candidate.
Hey, can I ask a question,
Please,
Greg?
please.
I'm kind of, so
please.
Terry and Erica, when you are, so let's be real on this part. When you're looking for someone, oftentimes, do you have hesitancy to hire somebody that looks like you? Or do you feel compelled to have to hire someone that doesn't look like you? Or do you feel pressure? In my world, I have been in situations where if it's 2 of us together or 3 of us together, people feel like they need to come and intercede. But it's okay for our counterparts to be all together and there's nothing thought of it. So those of you that have the opportunity to be in a hiring position, which is rare, especially to be able to, pick someone and select someone to hire, what do you look for, and how do you look beyond cultures and race and and know that it's going to be scrutinized because you're the one that's hiring.
I'll let Mr. Morrison go first. He's on
Uh,
the edge of his seat. I'm gonna let him have it.
you know, great question. You
I
know,
knew it was, but it's one of those questions that's like, ugh.
That's an excellent question.
Yeah, you know, and I'm going to give an example from a previous leader. Actually, it was my previous chief information officer, and she really broke the mold. She was of Indian descent, and at one point, she had almost half of our CDIO staff, our chief information and digital staff, was of Indian descent, and so she had hired a lot of individuals who were culturally very similar to her. And the last one she hired without the consent of others, because she felt this was the right thing to do, and she knew it was going to get a lot of pushback. And I sent her a message when she did that and said, I know, without you telling me, I know that you face some significant pressure with this hire, but I also felt like you did what you thought the right thing to do was. What I found more often than not is that we aren't always willing to do that, that we will conform to the pressures that exist in the cultures around us. I have never been afraid to hire a person of color in my organization, and to be honest, and when I see someone who I think I can even help by them being close to me, because I'm going to be able to provide the coaching and cultivation that they may not have gotten somewhere else. I've never been afraid to do that. Now, but when you do it, you got to be willing to put the work in, because they may not. I mean, if we all acknowledge all of the implications of systemic racism, I mean, I'm not saying that it is. We know that it isn't at parity with all of our experiences and all of the development opportunities that should have come more naturally. So I just carry that with me in all my choices, and acknowledge that in this whole equity notion, that some may need a little bit more in some cases, and I need to not be afraid to give that to them. And in some cases, that is giving them the chance to show their ability with the requisite skills that, of course, have to be present. So, and I think more Black leaders have to bring that to bear, particularly those who are in hiring positions, because that's how the ceilings get broken persistently.
And I would just add to that. So I have been that person that has been pulled into the office and say, you're hiring too many Black people, in so many words. But I think the key for me is always doing the right thing, not basing it on their color, their culture, their background, who is the best person that fits the job based on the skill, their tenacity, and their fit. And as long as I always do that, I always have that to stand on. And it doesn't matter if I've hired 4 Black people versus, 4 white people or Caucasian people or Indian people or whatever race or culture. So I just stand on the fact that I'm selecting the person that's best fit for the job. But I do find it weird that, and I think Mr. Hires could probably speak to this, but in a government organization, you have certain EO standards that you have to meet. And so my organization that I work for, actually, we're helping the command meet their goals based on the diversity of our population. So I get rewarded on that aspect of it because we're diverse and we're helping the command meet our standard. But behind closed doors, I'm being told you're hiring too many people that are like you. So I just always do the right thing and not regard what race or background someone is. And then I don't have any concerns about it, because on paper, I can show why this person was the best fit for the position.
Y'all some strong leaders. I like you.
Wow.
Can I share something?
Please, Raven.
All right. I wanted to touch on about cultivating the leaders, and I guess, looking at someone who may come from a different background where you wouldn't expect I guess them to, behave in a certain way. And I'm going to be as quick as possible as I run through this. Okay, so I've been back and forth from Huntsville since I was 9 years old. I was adopted by my aunt and uncle. And I call them mom and dad now. But when I was 14 years old, I was being raised by my grandmother. My biological mother passed when I was 7 months. So that's why my aunt and uncle decided that they wanted to be in my life, because I was failing in school. I was in like 7th grade, and I was, oh my God, I'm getting nervous telling the story. So I was failing in school.
Take your time.
Skipping school. If I told my grandmother I didn't want to go to school that day, she would let me stay home because she had to go to work. So she couldn't stay and like fight with me to get out of bed and go to get on the bus. I was fighting because I was getting bullied. So I had to fight. I was just in a terrible, environment. I grew up in poverty. I often say, like, a lot of times my dinners were honey buns and Sprite because my grandmother, she just didn't have it. Sometimes she would go hungry to feed me. So what my aunt and uncle, well, my mom and dad, I guess they saw something in me and they decided to bring me up here to Huntsville. And I went from straight F's to straight A's. I definitely, I hated school. I didn't know I could succeed in school until they, started to cultivate that potential out of me. My mom put me in the angel pageant. I was absolutely terrified because I was like 14, and then I had to perform and I had to do a talent, and it was like the scariest thing ever, but it was one of the best experiences of my life. I just started, she kind of thrust me, my mom and my dad, I don't want to discount my dad's influence on my life. They kind of thrust me in these positions to, lead and perform in ways that I didn't think possible, even though I came from poverty and everybody around me was not doing drugs, but a lot of people that I grew up with, not that I'm better, but like they're not in the best position. Like I'm from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I just visited a few weeks ago. Baton Rouge still looks the same. It actually looks worse. And it kind of breaks my heart because I wish everybody could have the opportunity that I had. Somebody snatched me up like just in time in order to, bring that out of me as a young Black woman. And like I said, I struggled with school. I didn't know I could be good at math and science. Even just now, I just graduated from Drake, and I struggled with math, but I learned how to study because I was taught, and it was brought out of me. And so now I feel encouraged and inspired to go on. And I don't know if I want to be a teacher, but I do like the idea of being a science communicator or a math communicator in which I can help other students learn how to learn. It doesn't have to be a struggle. You just need the tools. You just need the environment to encourage that to be brought out of you. So I really wanted to touch on what, I guess all of you said. I was taking notes. So just to, an anecdotal example of how that could work in your favor if you give somebody the chance instead of discounting them just because of what they look like, or just their
Raven,
background.
thank you for sharing your personal story. That was powerful, and certainly look forward to see where this energy takes you, because I certainly believe that it's going to take you far. And the opportunity for leaders, particularly in the Black community, there's a scripture that says, to whom much is given, much is required. And I, based on what I see, many of us have been given a whole lot. And so that means that there's a whole lot that's required of us. And when we see the ravens in the world, I think there's an opportunity for us. I mean, and we
yes, sir. Oh my God, that's so funny. I literally say I want to teach other nappy-headed Black girls from the South how to do math, and because I was a nappy-headed Black girl in tattered clothes, and oh my God, like it was rags, not to riches, but like I definitely was in them rags. So.
That is the opportunity for us to make certain that we're taking the chance, taking the opportunity to help the ravens of the world, to see their way to the possibilities that exist. I know I've been blessed by many of people, particularly in the community that I grew up in, that saw some ounce of potential and ensured that potential was realized.
This is a beautiful conversation. I just want to say thank you all for those responses. And Raven, I think it takes a bit of courage, like Ms. Erica said earlier, to be vulnerable and share with us like that. We have some phenomenal leaders here. I want to open it up to the attendees in the crowd today to see if there are any additional questions. I believe I saw Ms. Joyce had her hand up earlier. If you still remember your question, please feel free to come off mute and ask the question.
Yes. My question is about seniors who want to make a transition into a leadership position. Let's say you've always, you want to retire from one career, but you've always wanted to be a leader. What suggestions would you make for that senior citizen, say someone over 55, to transition into a leadership management position?
I'm gonna take this
Please.
because I'm a senior, because I'm over 55.
That's okay.
So,
I like you old folks.
No way, Dr.
No.
Hodges.
oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Y'all know all about this. Y'all know what that melanin do for you in the old age.
Period.
Okay.
Yes.
I don't crack.
That's right. And it doesn't. So all you need is naps and water, y'all. Naps and water. Then you'll be all right. Okay, so for seniors, let me tell you a little bit about my story, because I've been in education the entire time. However, in higher ed, I was looking for a leadership position. And so, but the senior leadership saw me in a different view. They wanted me to go a different path. I already knew that path. However, I wanted to be a leader. And in my mind, I knew how to do the hard stuff, the work, that kind of thing. What I needed to cut my eye teeth on was leading other people, being able to give directions, work with that team, and move them in a direction. And so literally, I left a position to go into a position where somebody or the institution trusted me to be a leader, but put me in a position where every day now I have to hone those skills that I wanted to do. So I would say, look at something that's different, that requires the leadership skills that you want to hone, and just go for it. Apply for those positions, or either start something that requires you to have the end result where you have deliverables at the end of the day. But oftentimes, I think for us, people have a tendency to want to pigeonhole you into something, and you're trying to go in a different direction, but you're so good at this right here that they don't want you to leave this right here, but you see yourself in a bigger forum. So I would suggest that you go and even apply, even if you consider it a step back from where you are, so that you can renew your path.
Where is the best place to get training? I would think that volunteer work, where you're not, just volunteer work in a leadership position, would be a stepping stone, to getting there. So my question is, where is the best place to get training? Because, when you're switching over to a new career, you have certain insecurities, and you need to get through those insecurities.
But that's where that training starts to me, is working through those insecurities.
Well, we all know Dr. Hodges do not look like she in her 50s, but I am in my 50s, closer to 60 than 50, right? So I would say, it go back to something I said earlier, when you say leadership, I just got to be honest with you. I mean, leadership of what? I mean, leadership, I mean, I would need a little bit, am I looking to be a leader who's a supervisor? Am I looking to be a leader who's a manager, right? There's, because everybody are leaders, but there's a difference between
management.
Okay. Thank you. Now that helps me a little bit more. So as a manager, normally a manager is someone who who is over other supervisors. So, right. So if I want to learn how to manage other people or supervise other people, I will look at what is, as to Dr. Hodges' point, if I'm in education or I'm in ODO, if I'm in race relations, whatever, I mean, I'm managing other people. So how do I get, and that's an excellent question you asked there. Now, before I answer this one, I got 2 minutes. I want to go back and say, Raven, you touched something that I really hope I want to come back and talk to you about a little bit later on. Dr. Hodges, y'all, Dr. Hodges opened up a can that we did not continue to finish processing. That's a tremendous question that she gave us about making decisions as leaders, because, you know, in my role currently now, I have to ensure that people do what Erica said, that you select people based off capabilities and qualifications. Even if I'm going to bring other people of color on, I have to still ensure that they either are qualified for the position, or I'm bringing them into a position to develop them into that particular position, right? But you get hit with that thing a lot of time about, well, oh, it's too many of you all. But hey, I work for the Secret Service, and I'm going to tell you that the leadership in the Secret Service at the time, they was not a whole bunch of people of color. But if you brought people of color in, and then I was saying, like, oh, that's quite a few. So I can't process that right now because I got to answer this question for you. But if you're looking to lead, I would say looking to go into management, think about what it is area that you want to manage, right? And then think about, how do I get additional managerial skills? There are different classes that you actually can take that tell me, how do I think as a manager? And as a manager, I'm always thinking about providing the resources, setting the goals, setting the strategy, setting the objectives, setting the vision of where I want that organization to go. And I applaud you, because a lot of time people of color, they run from that. We are used to being the one who doing the work, but not the one who determining what the work needs to be done. So when you say you want to move into management, I hear you saying, I want to determine what is the work that needs to be done. So hone your skills to determine on the career field that you want to be in, what is the work that needs to be done. And in order to determine what needs to be done, we would have to have a side conversation, because you would have to talk about, okay, I want to be I want to go to Mars. Okay, so if I want to lead people going to Mars, like we're going to Marshall Space Flight Center, you got to determine what are the things that you're going to take to get there. How do you get those resources, and how you set that tone? If I'm the one who's going to tell you, I want you to build that rocket, and I want you to supervise the people building the rocket, all you got to know is what it takes to build that rocket. Do you have the resources to build that rocket, and giving people the skill set to build that particular rocket? So if you want to be in management, I would say take classes that's learn about strategic leadership, critical thinking skill, and analytical skills, and then determine how I put those in place with what it is that I want to provide oversight over.
Thank you. Excellent answer.
Awesome. Thank you all for that feedback. Miss Erica, I want to ask you a question really quick. And the question is, what would you tell your younger self, and how do you motivate and push yourself?
So I have a very interesting story myself, similar to Raven. I was the person who nobody thought would make it. So I think I got where I am today because I told myself that I was going to be who I felt who I could dream I could be. And so if I would tell my younger self anything, I would definitely tell myself, don't worry about the haters. Don't worry about the negativity. Don't worry about anything. Just keep pushing, keep working, and keep doing the things that you need to do to get you closer to where you want to be. I think a lot of times I was pushing myself, of course, because I'm here where I am today, but it wasn't without a lot of heartache that I think I may not have had to go through if I would have been more, I guess, positive that I could do it despite what everybody else said. So just work hard. And I always say hard work always pays off no matter what you do. So hard work, I think, is what I would tell myself. Work hard, don't worry about what other people say.
That's an awesome response. I think I can relate to that personally, and probably many of our panelists and attendees as well, because the current climate, you know, we just passed the holiday of Juneteenth, and everybody came together and kind of thought about what does it mean for everyone to move forward together? What does progress truly look like, right? And there was a question polled from the attendees, and the question is, what does leadership look like post-COVID? Terry, I'll ask you that question.
You know, I think it's still being unveiled to us. You know, I think that there are some who believe that there is a post-COVID answer that is here today. To be honest, I mean, let's take, you know, whether we're going to be working remotely or going back to the office, or companies are having to make a stance today because you got to do something. But there are just so many forces that will inform that. But time is going to be the ultimate curator of what the right answer is. We're in a, hopefully once in a generation pandemic. And so we have to allow that some grace to actually be expended to evolve with a little time. Give ourselves a year or two to settle into what will be the ultimate new normal. We're just too close to this. We're actually still in the pandemic. I know some states. I'm heading to Florida next week, and I'm expecting to feel like portions of the state are acting like the pandemic is over. There's just some that don't appreciate the current state of affairs. So my bias is that we allow for some time to really assess what is the new normal. Now let me pull up to say, leadership really stands above a situation. The capabilities of being able to manage through complexity, to stay focused on the impact, stay focused on the mission at hand. That really stands above any one situation, pandemic notwithstanding. And the key is just always assessing what is the right answer for that time, and be willing to evolve, as the circumstances evolve as well.
Thank you. And I think that's a very complex question, because it will depend where we're at economically, as well as socially, as well as career-wise for a lot of people. We know that there's a lot of job loss, and the government has been giving out stimulus for a lot of folks, right? And I think in our community, we have a dependency on that stimulus in some cases, right? But I want to open that question up to other folks on the panel. And even if we can engage in the chat, some of the attendees, what do we think leadership looks like post-COVID? I'll ask that. Dr. Hodges, Ms. Erica, Mr. Lucius.
So I want to bounce off what Terry was saying. I think COVID has forced leadership to pivot, right, and to think differently. And I hear a lot about the $300 that was being passed out, and somehow that $300 has made everybody not go to work. But I'm not of that school of thought, because in my head, and I'm not a small business owner, so I apologize if I'm getting ready to make a small business owner mad.
No, it's okay.
If $300 is what's going to make them come to work, then I suggest that you pay a little bit more so that they will come to work. And so if you make up that $300, because I've read some recent research that says that literally pay has gone down post-COVID. And so you got paid more before the pandemic, and now the rate of pay actually is lower since the pandemic. So I really think that leaders and leadership, because of COVID, has had to pivot, because people learned, one, they could do more with less. They could work remotely and be successful. Companies that are based out of New York are paying New York money, while the people are living in Florida, Mississippi. And so again, I think being able to lead people remotely or blendedly, I think what it has done, the pandemic has forced leaders to consider different options on how do we make this team work moving forward.
Absolutely.
If I could add to that, I think leadership under pandemic has forced leaders to look more on a global scale, because when you're at your home, like you said, you're working from home, and you're not just competing with those in the United States, you're competing with people throughout the world. I can be in Africa on my phone managing a team. And so we've been forced to become just just not look at our own box, but look globally through and take into consideration what's going on in politics around the world, which we should have been doing anyway, but even more so. It's more important that as we lead our teams, we think of the team as being a global team instead of just a local team.
Thank you for your input there, Ms. Joyce. We know that technology has created the opportunity for us to be more connected. And we're all here on a Zoom call today. And I believe just a few years ago, Zoom was not a leader in the video conferencing space, but Zoom has catapulted to the top of the technology space during the pandemic. So that's a very important response there. I appreciate that. I'm gonna change the subject a little bit. Go ahead. No, please,
just
please.
30 seconds. So you asked, what does leadership look like post-pandemic?
Yes.
So to me, what I'm hearing is, well, will my leadership style change post-pandemic, right?
Wow.
So I think that's something we have to take in consideration. You know, basically leadership, if I'm just break it down, is just the ability to influence others to accomplish a mission, right? Or to accomplish a job. Well, how I may have done that post-pandemic may not be the same way I do it now, you know, where I could have been more of a autocratic style. Well, now when all of my workforce may have been, or my team may have been right there in the office, hey, I may have to be a little bit more of a democratic, laissez-faire style now, right? So it may require me to change how I want to lead versus how I'm gonna lead, because the environment may not be the same. So when we talk about post-pandemic, we just can't talk about leadership. We have to talk about the culture or the environment that we're particularly in. Has COVID caused that to shift, right? Because you can't compare to necessarily how we lead at a NASA Marshall Space Flight Center post-pandemic would not be the same as how I would have led, and even doing the same work at the United States Secret Service. See, because our mission is different. So me now, it may be some change within that culture that may have shifted, that may make Lucius have to change his leadership style in order to be successful in accomplishing the work that we have to done. So sometimes we gotta, you know, drill down a little bit more further to get to what we really mean, you know, what we're trying to get to at the root cause. Now, I may not want to shift my leadership style. The question now, am I being successful as a leader, accomplishing what they hired me to do, whether I'm a supervisor and or a manager, because the environment has shifted.
That was a very good answer. Please.
If I
Ms.
could,
Erica.
I just want to add, I think that it's very important what Mr. Hires shared with us. And I was going to say, I think in my specific situation and organization, flexibility as a leader is going to become more important post-COVID. I mean, we have situations where we have people for over a year and a half that have only been doing 100% telework. Prior to COVID, they may have only been able to telework 1 day per pay period. So I think post-COVID, we're going to be looking at a situation where people are going to say, I've successfully performed my job at home 100% of the time during COVID. Why can't I telework more after COVID is over? So I think leaders will have to become more flexible in my organization. And I think also communication is going to change for leaders, where you can walk to the cubicle 10 feet away and speak to someone, you know, in a normal situation when they're in the office. It's a lot different to have to take the time to pick up the phone, call the person, the challenges of Zoom. So I think the timing of how you plan out your day will have to change post-COVID, as well as the flexibility.
These are excellent responses, and I want to thank you all for engaging there. The very next question was going to be around self-awareness and becoming a leader. And Mr. Lucius, this was something you were passionate about. Can you talk more about your journey becoming more self-aware?
Oh, wow. Yeah. You know, to me, self-awareness is huge. The Army sent me to my first school. Terry, you appreciate this, when it was to kind of like do the work that you're doing now. It was to a school called the Defense Equal Opportunity Management Institute, right? And I'm like, man, okay, I don't know why I don't need this school, because, you know, I was a young kid growing up in Roebuck, Georgia, watching a race riot when I was being a part of a race riot when I was going from element to the middle school. I know all this stuff. Right. And so this 16-week course, I need to be teaching the course, Dr. Hodges. Well, they give you these individual assessments and everybody like, yeah, Lucius got it. Well, we in the military, we use rank. That's how he got it. He know what he's talking about. I got that first assessment and I failed. And you fail too, they kick you out this course. Now I'm in the top 10% of my career field. I'm getting ready to get kicked out. My career could do a 180. And so I'm sitting out like, I don't get this. You know, I'm participating, I'm engaged, I'm involved, I'm doing all the right things. I'm telling, I'm gonna pick on some folks. I'm telling Erica and Terry all the things that they doing wrong. What more do you want of me? And they said, that's your problem. You telling everybody else what they doing wrong and all their shortcomings. You have never once stopped to think about your own self. Tell us about you, my son. What I need to tell you about me. I'm from Roebuck, Georgia, 2 red lights. I grew up in a small town. I played basketball. We was good. We won state championship. I'm in the Army. I'm good at what I do. What else you need to know? But you still haven't told us anything. You still don't know how you engage and how you interact with people. Those non-verbs, you come all up. There's a lot you need to deal with you. And if you don't get it straight, we're gonna have to send you back to your unit, and it's not gonna be on a positive note. So I started sitting there and started trying to do a little bit of self-assessment. Who am I? And the more I asked that question, the less I knew that I knew about myself. So before we can judge and assess other people and understand how we either interact and engage in organizations, we need to learn about ourselves. Now they like to talk about this emotional intelligence thing. And I know Dr. Hodges probably wrote a book on it, but there's a good book I like. It's called Emotional Intelligence 2.0, right? And man, the first phase in there of the book, it talks about this. And I just be sure they got 4 window panes. And the first window pane is self-assessment, right? It's 4 window pane and it's broken down into 4 areas. First one is personal competence, right? Self-assessment. What do you know about yourself? Then and now since I've been through all the training, I do a good job of knowing myself. But the second one is called self-management. I'm 57 years old and I'm still trying to learn how to manage myself. I know what I should do because I'm pig-headed. I still don't always do it, right? But I can't say I don't know because I've been awakened a little bit on me. Now remember, I'm not talking about nobody else. This still trying to get through 57 years of figure me out. The third one is you move to the social competence, social awareness, and then managing relationships. Erica said something else that was very, very important early, about getting on the team. I want to make sure you're a good fit. So if you think about it, when you go to a job interview, and I've interviewed a lot of folks and I've hired a lot of folks, and lucky, blessed, and I haven't had to fire too many. There's only 3 questions I'm trying to get to. Can you do the job? Do you want to do the job? I might ask you 10 questions, but these are the only 3 I'm asking you. Can you do the job? Do you want to do the job? And do me and my team want you on the job, on the team with us to do the job? If you haven't learned how to manage some relationships and some social awareness, it might be a little bit more challenging for you to get there. So I would say, the more you can do to become more self-aware, the better you would be within yourself and try to figure out how you do things and how you think. So that's what the journey that I've been on is continue to become more self-aware for myself.
I'll open it up to our other panelists, please.
So I think everybody, and probably everybody that's listening in, has a story and can say how I got from point A to point B. With me, it was early on what other people saw in me that I didn't see in myself, that put me in position to do things, or to, even as a peer partner or that kind of thing, take the leadership role in that. And so when you're talking about becoming self-aware, like Erica, I have a story that, she was confident, I was not. And so all through school, I never thought that I was smart enough to do what I wanted to do. I was always afraid that I was going to mess up. I went to private school in Detroit, in Michigan, well, outside Detroit, and being at a school that has less than 10% or less than 1% Black at the time that I went, there was always a lot of self-doubt and then moving forward. And then I came up at a time where people that we had to be better than in order to be equal to. That was a mantra that was taught. And so I can guarantee you, nobody ever thought that I would have a doctorate degree, even though I come from a family of educators. And so just being aware of even if you're not aware, you should be aware that other people are watching you. And that sometimes in your development into a leader, it's because somebody else saw something in you and started pushing you into a position that then you can become self-aware. Because a lot of times you can say, oh, I want to be a leader. But honing those skills are, it's important. But again, sometimes you may not see it in yourself, but somebody else sees it. And they move you in that direction without you even knowing that you're being moved in that direction. So.
And I would just like to say, though, the part of that too, part of that self-discovery, we've been transparent, I believe, with everybody today, because we all have a story. We just don't have time to tell all of them, but we have a lot of similarities. Sometimes that fear factor, man, is overcoming some of the things that, people look at us now and it's, man, oh, they're successful and they doing this, they are doing that. You still don't know the struggle, but that part of that self-awareness is recognizing these fears, right? Recognize, well, even when other people see greatness in you, you may not see it. So part of self-awareness, going back and discovering the things that may be making you doubt yourself so that you can come up with a game plan on how you're going to overcome it, right? Because that's the key. When I'm talking about going back and find these self-awareness things, like I could have just shut up and I could have shut them out. Or I could have went back and started doing that discovering and find out, dude, you from too small, real small red light. You were raised by your mom. What make you think that you're going to be able, and I wasn't even thinking about successful and all this and that stuff. But when you get that self-discovery, it's not to prevent you from excelling. It's to keep so you can come up with a game plan, how no matter what you discover, you're not going to allow it to stop you, right? Period.
And I literally did not even discover my leadership inside until I was 30 and over. I had to live through all my fabulous 20s, have a good time, doing everything. But it wasn't until I was 30 and looking back, retrospect, and thinking what I wanted to do that was going to be in front of me. So I'm kudos to all these little babies that's on here, Erica, that discovered their leadership ability, Raven, beforehand, Jason. So I just, I'm excited for them because it took me a little time. And so it's okay if you don't know it in your 20s. That's all I'm gonna say. It's okay if you don't discover your leadership style or ambition, for a minute.
I think those points, they really touched me personally, because in the software industry, a lot of things we hear in 2 to 3 years, in the first 5 years, is the word imposter syndrome. And a lot of us come into the business not knowing if we can compete at the highest levels of corporate, right? Especially when you come from an HBCU, a historically black college and university. And one of the things that I've learned over time is that sometimes you just got to keep your head down and keep grinding, is what we like to call it, right? Keep reading.
No. I'm gonna have to discorrect the young man.
Please.
You keep grinding, but don't keep your head down.
Lift
Never
it up,
put your
right?
head down. Absolutely.
Right.
You
no,
keep
thank
that
you
head
for saying up.
right?
No, I really appreciate
Never put
that.
your head down. Look and see what's going on around you. Keep the grind going, right? But keep that head up. And let me say this one too.
Please.
Look, I was an angry young black man. I mean, man, it wasn't until this brother pulled me aside when I was 19 years old. He asked me, why am I so angry? And why am I always trying to fight all the time? And I told him my story. I said, first of all, because I ain't never found out, I want to make it. I want to know what to do. I just know what the heck to do. And I can't find nobody to tell me what to do. And so he pulled me on his wing up until the time he died. It was the first and last time I actually had an African-American male that really poured into me, right? So I'm gonna say this too, keep your head up and keep looking around, understand and learn the culture that you're working in. If you find folks look like you, they're willing to pour into you, like Tony Dunn just said, fine. But if you don't, there's good people out there sometimes that don't look like us. And I got to tell you, my coach right now is an African-American female, right? My coach before that was a white male, right? I coach a lot of African-American females, more so than male, because they hard-headed. It's hard to find them. But my point is, if someone want to pour into you, let them pour into you. But if you got your head down when they're trying to pour into you, won't see them.
You won't see them.
Absolutely. And don't let no one tell you that you can't make it because you come from an HBCU. My wife is a senior manager out there at NASA. She graduated from Savannah State, and she's a computer programmer. We start out old school, the computer programming. She can hold her own with everybody. She's so humble you wouldn't know it. So she's the quiet one. I'm the one with the big mouth. But yes, sir. The only thing, I don't want to correct you, but I'm just saying you're too smart, you're too intelligent, and you don't let no one tell you to keep your head down. Keep their head up and look and see what's going on around.
That reminds me of please, Mr. Morris.
I've known Greg for a long time. I can attest to you that I have never seen his head down. So, but you know, I will say this, that you know, what I found is that there's no straight line to your leadership, to your full leadership potential being manifested. I mean, there are all sorts of evolutions in everybody's journey. You know, one of the things that I just a story. I'll put myself on a 2-minute clock here. You know, my first 6 years at Lilly, it took me 6 years to get a promotion. And in our world, wow, that is you don't know many people that started from college and they're still there for 6 years. And that promotion is elusive. And there were many forces that would have led me to leave Lilly, except for the fact that I had gotten married, had a child on the way, and just built a house. So those three forces kept me in one spot. But you know, there was just so much that I took into my next phase of my journey because of that first phase of my journey. I mean, my commitment to developing people and to helping anyone where my experiences is available to support them, I'm willing to do it. I'm a leave no man or woman behind type guy, because I felt like I was left on the sidelines for 6 years. You know, so I tried to just pull forward all of the pain and the experiences and the frustration of the first phase of my career. And in some ways, I feel like that accelerated the second phase of my journey, because my commitment ran deep to supporting and developing people of all sorts where my experiences may be beneficial to them. So, one of the things I will say, there was a phase of my life where exposure to other leaders was what made the difference in my ability to elevate my contribution to our organization. You know, so I've taken the time, and everybody does this differently. I've taken the time to read more about, you know, Eisenhower, to read Abraham Lincoln, to just go to history and see leaders who were in the most extreme difficulties of time, and they led a body, a people, or company through that experience. So take the lessons that are yours and apply them to your future to help you reach your full potential.
Thank you for that, Mr. Morris. I'm going to take a quick moment to plug the 43rd annual BDPA National Conference that's coming up in August. There will be many learning opportunities. I know we'll be focusing on diversity, equity, and inclusion, professional development, as well as have technical workshops, keynotes, et cetera, et cetera. There will be a plethora of experiences there. So if anybody on the call wants to tune in, we should drop the link for the registration in the chat. But the reason I say that is because I've been a member of BDPA for about 1.5 years now. And BDPA has offered me the opportunity to, number one, network. And that's what I'm doing here today. I really appreciate you all pouring into me. I'm definitely learning. I hope the community is learning. But number two, be visible. One of the things that Terry mentioned to me is that, Greg, we need you to come out of the closet and show some of your skill sets in the spotlight, right? And so that's something I really appreciate BDPA for. And the last thing is for professional development. I'm getting to hone some of those skills, and I'm taking notes vigorously, if anybody can't tell, trying to grow here myself. So I definitely appreciate that. It brings me to a question that we have from the attendees that says, how do you stay grounded in being a servant leader, remembering why you pursue leadership as a way to help others? And I'll open that up to anyone who would like to answer that question. How do you stay grounded in being a servant leader, remembering why you pursue leadership as a way to help others?
I think I do it because the way I stay grounded is remembering that I don't have all the answers. And so sometimes, you know, leaders will come on board and they got all the answers, or teachers got the answers in the big book, you know, that kind of thing. But I don't get hung up on Dr. Hodges. My mom named me Rosemary, so I'm okay with that. So I think the biggest thing is that to stay grounded is just to, I remember the struggles, and so I try not to get in front of, I don't let my credentials get in front of me, I guess is what I want to say. Because anybody can get them if you stay in the game long enough. But to stay grounded and to reach out to others, to me, is it's the only way that you can survive in leadership. Because if you're not giving it back, then you're not really a leader.
That's profound. I'll ask that question to our other panelists. How do we stay grounded as servant leaders? Remembering that the reason we came into leadership was to serve others.
I'll say for me, I continue to engage with our young people. You know, it's refreshing to see the leaders that are coming in the next wave, to know that that there won't be a deficit of talent to help represent and contribute to the challenges and opportunities of the future. And but to the extent my experiences can be helpful for them, I'm always willing to offer them up. And I often find that I learn and grow as much, I hope, as they learn and grow from the experiences with me. So that's how I stay grounded.
I would say one of the things, the higher you go up, I mean, the more you get exposed to, and you know, and you got to be like Dr. King. I mean, you know, you got to be real with yourself. Dr. King said one time, the most hardest thing you have to deal with is that drum major mentality. And, you know, so that if you think about it in the band, especially the HBCUs, I mean, people come to see the band, especially if you got a good band. And then the bands, they come to see who? The drum major. Let's just be real. I mean, that's the person to stand out there in the front. That's the person who's putting on the show. So when you're a leader, you're in certain key position. And if you're doing good, yeah, and that's why so many leaders fall. You start thinking it's all about you. And we forget that servant leadership is not about you. You know, it's about how well you lead the others. And to Terry's point, it's a book by John Maxwell I like called The 5 Levels of Leadership. And the 5th level, very few of us reach it, because it's like the 5th level is you made other leaders, you develop other leaders who develop other leaders, and all to develop other leaders who develop other leaders. You can't be sitting around there thinking that you all there in the, old folks used to say, all there in a bag of chips. That's country, right? I know. So we can go to all these colleges, but you got to come back to sometime to the most smartest person that I knew didn't sit in anybody's classroom. And that was my grandmother. And she helped my sister with all those advanced, you know, classes, because my sister was in the advanced classes. And, you know, I was in the thank God I made it classes, right? Right. And just being real. But my grandmother, who never set foot in anybody's college classroom because her mother was a teacher when she came up, she helped my sister with all her high honors academic classes. So that humility, it's not about you. It's not about your titles. It's not about where you came from. People are people. And at the end of the day, we are all equal. Whether or not you're a good person or not a good person. If y'all think about it, I can think of some people that have some real good talent. And I don't want to call in names or get political, but I can think of some people who had some high positions. You could not pay me enough money to want to hang out with them, because the character of that person was nothing like the character of my grandmother, right? And so it's not about you. It's not about us. It's about what are we doing to help bring others there? Because I'm gonna tell you right now, I didn't do nothing on my own to get here. It was other people who poured in me, who invested in me, saw this little angry kid and helped put me on the right path that got there. So I have a responsibility to just help other people know what's out there, and it's up for them to do the work, but I have a responsibility for that.
That's awesome. Thank you for that. Ms. Erica.
So I would definitely say Mr. Hires took my answer. But
that's why I went before you.
I like a lot of good things that he said. And the one thing is that it's not about me. And that's what I'm constantly telling myself. And one of the questions that we hadn't really gotten to, but I think it was something about how do you lead from the front, the back, or a side, right?
Yes.
And so when I read that question, I was like, that's interesting because it depends. Different situations cause you to leave from different positions. And so at the end of the day, like, to be a servant leader, sometimes for myself, I take me, Erica, out of it, and I think about what's better for the whole. And so sometimes that's me in the front saying, no, I'm gonna protect my team. We're not gonna do that. Or sometimes that's me beside them working in the trenches with them to get it done. It's like, I'm not gonna say at any point I can't roll my sleeves up and get in there and help them get the job done. And sometimes I'm behind them because I want them to be able to do it their way and get to the end result. Just, you know, they can turn around and ask me, am I going on the right direction? And I can say, yes. I don't always have to lead them there. Sometimes it's important for them to lead themselves, and I just assist where it's needed. So I think the key is, it's not about me, it's about what's better for the overall team.
Excellent feedback. Thank you all. If anyone would like to expound on that question, one of the questions was, does a leader stand in front with or behind the team they are leading? And in what situation does this dynamic change? That's a good question.
Great question. I don't know who came up with it, but it's a great question.
I thought Erica wrapped that right up, because a good leader is gonna have to, you know, lead from every direction at some point, depending on the situation. It is a situation change. So I thought she did a good job. I'm so proud of young leaders. I just feel like I can retire anytime now.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with what Erica said.
Amen.
All right. So that's great. This has been an excellent discussion. I'll check with our host today for a time. Make sure we're on time here.
We're actually right. We're at the closing time now. Great.
Awesome. So that's perfect. I think this has been a beautiful discussion. I would like to thank each one of our panelists for pouring into our entire community today. And I just want to say shout out to BDPA Huntsville, shout out to BDPA as a whole. And I would like to leave you all with many blessings as you travel onto your days. I thank you for having me as the moderator today. And I would love to stay in contact with each and every one of you. I believe that leaders need mentors as we move forward. I think we need sponsors as we move forward. And I think each one of you brought a very diverse perspective to this conversation today. So thank you.
Well, Greg, I thought you did a really good job. And if you're looking for a mentor, you have to act like Jason, who just bullied me into being his mentor. He just called me and sent me emails, and just, I can't even say no, because he'll just put himself on a timer. Dr. Hodges, I just need 5 minutes. So for all of you out there, if you're looking for a mentor, all you got to do is ask Jason how to get you one, because he will stalk you down.
A thorn in your side, huh?
I enjoy working with Jason. We were both a part of the marketing team. He works on the website, and I work on marketing campaigns, and I enjoy working with Jason. So Jason, thank you for inviting me today, as well as the esteemed guests we have today.
Hey, and I just like to add 2 points to that too. A lot of time we reach out and we search mentors, but that's starting a relationship. One of the most critical things is to maintain and sustain those relationships, right? You know, and a lot of times that's what people do. They reach out and they start, and then once they think they got 1 or 2 of the places that they think they're at, you know, they stop the relationship. And for Greg, one of the things that I say for you too, though, is you know, and Tony Dungy, I'm still from Tony Dungy. I'm a big Tony Dungy fan. He said all of us, self included, I said with y'all, I still have mentors, you know, and I could retire any day now. He said that we all should have people that we're pouring into, and we should all have people that are pouring into us. So for every one of us that's on this call and everyone that's participating, we should be asking ourselves, who are pouring into us? And then more importantly, who are we pouring back into? Doesn't matter what your title position is, you always have something that you can be offering and pouring into others. So that's something I challenge myself with all the time. And then finally, Jason, thank you for the invite. I think what you all are doing is super awesome. Anytime I can support and help, I'm there. We need more platforms like this so we can be true and open and honest with each other. I think it's a great thing. So I appreciate for being a part of this team, and for Dr. Hodges and Terry and Erica and everyone. I hope I got some new friends. So I hope we can stay in touch. Again, let's don't just start a relationship, let's maintain them. Thank you.
Thanks.
Holler at me, Raven.
All right, well, since
Was
Mr.
that
Hires,
Mr. Hires?
yeah, that was Mr. Hires.
Okay.
So
I
since
sure will.
Dr. Hodges and Mr. Hires went ahead and started their closing, I'm gonna go ahead and open it up to Ms. Ignont to give her kind of closing remark, and then we'll turn it over to Terry, then I'll give my closing remark.
Okay, thank you, Jason. First of all, I'd like to say thanks to Greg. You did an awesome job as a moderator,
Thank you.
keeping us all together.
I appreciate
And
that.
then I say thank you to Jason for the invitation to inviting me. I am a master and I could get up and talk about resource management all day, but this is a little bit out of my wheelhouse to talk about myself or leadership. So I appreciate Jason for pulling me out of my box, and I hope to be able to do more of this in the future. The more we do something that we're uncomfortable with, the better we get. So again, thank you, Jason. And lastly, I would just like to say, I think a point was made that everybody's path is different. So I would just say, figure out what path works for you. Continue to work hard to stay on that path, and find somebody to pour into you, and you still pour into other people. I think that's really important, and that is my big takeaway from this session today. So I appreciate it, everybody. Definitely hope that I can stay in touch with all of you.
Well, ditto. I mean, this has been a great event. I certainly thank Jason for the opportunity. And if he had given me more context around the other panelists, I probably would have declined, because I feel like I'm in. I'm having to punch above my weight here today. So it's been great engaging with you all. And I've certainly taken a lot of lessons away from you all's experiences. And that's what BDPA is about. I mean, we are, our core mission is about advancing the careers of our young people and our adult professionals. And where the rubber meets the road is through engaging conversations like this, to learn from the shared experiences of great leaders. And that's what we've had here tonight. So thanks, Jason and the Huntsville team for creating this platform so that we can all grow together.
No problem. And thank you all for joining us tonight. And what I like to do, it was one question that I wanted Greg to ask, and I'm gonna give you guys. Can you just answer real quick? Can you recommend? Well, Mr. Hires, you already gave us two. Everybody else, can y'all give us a book that you recommend on leadership, and a real quick, brief reason why? Because we're running over time.
Okay.
And I'm going to go back to a history book, and it's called No Ordinary Time, and it really walks you through the 30s and the 50s. I mean, we talk about Great Depression, you talk about World War II, you talk about another dimension of race pressure on this country. I've learned a lot from that book.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Erica?
So I can tell you what I'm reading right now. I can't think of a favorite right now, but I was so impressed with Stacey Abrams and what she was doing, what she has been doing. So Minority Leader is one of the things that I'm checking out right now, and it's great. And I would probably, so far, recommend it to others to check it out as well.
All right, thank you. Dr. Rosemary?
So I'm not recommending a book, because I think the book should be the one you write. And so it's so very rare that we have our own stories to tell. So you can go to the library and pick out a book. They're all there. But I think the best book is going to be the one that you write. And so just to write some reflections each night on something that you've learned and something that you will never do again.
Wow.
And by the end, you will be able to publish yourself. So
what you talking about, Dr. Hodges? Get out of here, man.
That's that self-awareness.
That's that education. That's that education.
I'm gonna have to validate what Dr. Hodges.
I'm just saying.
Dr. Hodges, I'm validating you. I mean, I agree with you, because this young lady right here, she's 26 years old. She graduated from college with my daughter. She had $1 million book deal. As a matter of fact, they're getting ready to make a movie out of her book, and it's called The Other Black Girl.
Awesome.
Right? It's super hot on microaggressions. Matter of fact, if you saw TV last week, she was on Good Morning America. 26 years old. She's super awesome. Again, like you said, the best book you can read is to write your own book.
That goes, yeah. You write your own book, write
Get
your
it. It's
own
a good one.
story.
Microaggression to deal with being a person of color in corporate America, right? She's super awesome. Super awesome. My daughter, one of her.
Okay, so
plans.
you've been giving out a lot of, read this, write this. I'm just saying, you like a commercial. You just giving love to so many people.
She's awesome. She's awesome. She's only 26.
You got everything up.
I was still trying to spell my name when I was 26, right? I barely snuck in the army. She wrote a $1 million book already.
I'm not just blowing smoke. I think that those of you that are in your 20s that are thinking about this, that's awesome. Because I really was not thinking about any of the things that you're thinking about until I was well into my 30s. I got all of my degrees, all my upper level degrees from the time I was 30 to 38. And because then I realized where the direction I wanted to go. So it's kudos to all of you. But write your own story, write your reflections each night, and you will see a book come out of that.
And brothers, because it said The Other Black Girl, it doesn't mean, Dr. Hodges, I got to help with this. It doesn't mean that we can't read this book, right? It's about corporate America.
Write your own.
Mr. Hires.
All right.
Mr. Hires.
Yes, ma'am.
I looked the book up on Goodreads, and if it makes you feel better, that it suggests other people have always read, and one of the books that was adjacent to The Other Black Girl, it's actually being used to prop up my phone right now. So it's in my sphere.
Thank y'all.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Mr. Hires. Do you have any more? Do you have another book you want to promote?
No, Dr. Hodges is gonna get on me, so
I will.
I'm gonna send a couple more next time.
All right, so what I want to do, I want to give the audience an opportunity just to come off mute for a moment and thank the panelists and Greg and Raven for the awesome job tonight. Everybody, if you just want to say thank you, if you enjoyed it, you can put it in the chat, or you can unmute and give them some feedback. Round of applause. Let's make it easy. Round of applause, everybody.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Hey, Jason, this is Judy. Just want to say great job, Huntsville chapter. And go ahead, Morris. This is Judy.
All right. Thank you, Judy. All right. So on that note, I normally would do a sum up, but I know we're running over time. So I want to go ahead and just close us out tonight. Thank you, Greg. You did an awesome job, man. I knew when I asked you were gonna come through with a bang like you did. So I definitely appreciate the energy that you brought to this panel. Awesome. Raven, thank you for the introduction. You did awesome, and everybody, this is Raven, first time doing something like this. So I think she did an amazing job. And to our panelists,
thank you.
When I asked you to do this, I had all your personalities and the mentorship that you all given me and mine. So I definitely appreciate that. And Dr. Hodges, I'll get back to you later about how you put me under the bus. But on that note, can all the panelists and Greg and Raven stay behind? I'm gonna go ahead and end this session out tonight. Thank you all for joining us. Once again, we are having the 43rd annual Black Data Processing Associates virtual conference. You can check that out at 2021.bdpa.org. To find out more about BDPA, you can go to bdpa.org. To find out more about what we're doing here in Huntsville is bdpahsv.org. And before we jump off, can all the panelists and Greg provide the attendees with a way to contact you? If it's LinkedIn, email, however you want to be contacted by the attendees.
Yes. I done already requested all of y'all on LinkedIn, so.
I think we're all on an email together, so I think that we can follow up there.
Okay. Awesome. All right, and on that note, thank you everybody for joining us. I definitely enjoyed it, and y'all have a great night. Thank you.
All right.
Y'all have a blessed night. It was so wonderful meeting all of you.
Thank you.